we can get ready to start. We have people online also. And so the first presenter will be Niall Buckley from IES. So just to tell everybody, here there is the camera and also the micro, so the people who are online can see you from here, and they're also seeing the presentation. So this is the session Nature-Based Solution in Geology. We will have 4 presentations, and you will have about 20 minutes. So the presentation itself should last around 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes, I will tell you, hey, we passed 15 minutes, so then there are some minutes for questions, also for online questions, and yes, that's all. So thank you very much. We can welcome Niall to presenting. He is presenting the VARCITIES project, and the presentation is Outdoor Health and Wellbeing Digital Interface. So thank you.
Do you want me to, is there a controller or something there?
I hope it works.
It might be just for that.
There you
I can just use the keyboard, yeah, no, it's okay. Sorry,
yes,
you're going.
Give you some space.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so today I'm just going to briefly discuss one of the projects we're working on in IES R&D, which is a nature-based solution project based across 7 pilot sites in Europe. And essentially, IES R&D are a computer or a climate tech-based company that focuses on building energy and city energy at like district scales down to the building scale. So it's a bit of an unusual space for us to be in the outdoor environment, especially around NBS in green spaces in cities. So this is an interesting project from that perspective. And before I get into it all, I guess the key thing, the key takeaway is today we're just demonstrating where we're at in the project. So we're about halfway through the digital interface. So we've set up all the empirical parts, but the actual deployment of these digital interfaces haven't started yet. I won't start till the end of the summer. So it's more of an aspirational kind of point of view rather than something empirical we're going to demonstrate just now. So just a brief overview of the VARCITIES project. Essentially, the VARCITIES project is about, I suppose, creating a template for nature-based solutions that can be applied across various cities across Europe and beyond. And that template is based around governance, technology, public and private industry. So it's about trying to create a replicable system of encouraging nature-based solutions. So there's a good few key pillars, but these are the 4 that stand out the most in the project. And today I'll be discussing this key pillar of the project. So just to give a brief overview, the first key thing is visionary solutions, which are nature-based solutions. They're not all nature-based, but for the most part, that's what we're going to be implementing. Then the digital architecture and software that goes in behind these solutions and how we communicate and how we disseminate through digital solutions. Then the next part is governments and structures. So this is local stakeholders, local government. So the local stakeholders being businesses and NGOs and whatnot. And that's a template that's going to be a really important part of this project, which is to demonstrate the value of these various solutions and see how you can replicate them again if they work. So, and then the last part there is co-governance, which is obviously a big part of Horizon Europe projects now. And that's just about getting the public buy-in and getting them to actually have a say in what goes on. So here's the visionary solutions. The reason they're called visionary solutions is obviously because they're going to be in the future and they're solutions for issues that we have on each site. But the MBS probably makes up about half the solutions. The rest is a bit grey in terms of whether you say it's nature-based. But this is an example of Dundalk in County Louth in the Republic of Ireland. And here's 3 of their key visionary solutions. One is a sensory garden. One is a learning pod, which connects in with some of the digital infrastructure we're putting in. And then bike stations, which is essentially just new bike sheds with all the tools and pumps and stuff you need. But ultimately, this is a public space, a public realm that's being underutilized. So the idea is to create a visionary garden just here. And we're going to put in various bits of digital infrastructure. So the IoT being sensors and digital interfaces, which I'm going to describe today. This is another site, Castelfranco. To the left, we have your digital twin, which is a 3D digital representation of the entire site and the local surroundings. And currently we have about 12 sensors set up, I think, on various different parts of the park. Some of them have different jobs. Some are gate counts, just to see how many people come in and out, and other water quality sensors, which I haven't seen the full spec yet. But essentially, this is the IoT infrastructure of the project, and it's going to be done on every site. And then the last 2 key parts that I described, local stakeholder and co-governance. So stakeholder being, again, local business and local, I suppose, key community groups that are local to the actual sites. Just to give an example of that, for Dundalk, that is a bunch of coffee shops and a museum that's close to the site who are nervous about the sensory garden going in because they think they're going to lose all their parking. But it's about working with them to show that if you actually have this garden and parking or benches and a nice space to sit, it might increase your footfall for coffee and cakes and everything you sell close to the museum. So that's the stakeholder part. And then the bottom part is co-creation, which this is the Skellefteå, which is Sweden example, where at the time people were online, but yeah, you get the local buy-in, you get people describing what they want or what they'd like to see from each of the sites. So I'm going to just focus on the Internet of Things today and nature-based solution and this digital interface. So the key metric of this is that you can't really manage what you can't measure. And so all these sensors are going in on all these pilot sites, and we're going to get lots of data back, and we want to be able to manage that in a way that is meaningful. But there's also another element of this project, which is we're going to get objective data, which is from the sensors, but subjective data from people feedbacking on the dashboard that we created for this project. So I thought this was a good way, segue, bringing nature-based solutions together with what we do in IES and what people are probably more familiar with here at Sustainable Places, which is digital twins of buildings or neighborhoods and sensors. So general sensors we're used to. And it's really helpful when you work with buildings and then you're in a building to describe what's going on. So this is just a standard practice, how a digital twin operates within an actual building. It's a controlled environment. So the key metrics for digital twins here, the one we create them and create the infrastructure, is to optimize energy use, bring down costs, reduce CO2, and increase the health and well-being of the occupants of the building. And we do this through all these sensors here. This is environmental sensors, making sure that the CO2 and humidity levels don't get too high in rooms that people occupy or any other VOC compounds. Energy meters, just the regulator, I suppose, monitor various equipment across the building, making sure they're running when they're supposed to be running. Lighting sensors, everything we're kind of familiar with to optimize energy use in buildings and controlled environments. So this is essentially monitoring and then controlling your environment to improve those factors. But when it comes to the outside world, we can't turn on air conditioning outside or regulate the climate by flicking a few buttons. It's obviously a bigger system. And so all we can do is monitor it and then understand it better and understand people's experience within that environment. And some of these nature-based solutions are based on microclimates and making it far more comfortable for the outdoor occupants to appreciate the space and enjoy the space. So we have to use sensors and visionary solutions to see how that actually impacts. So these are our sensors that we're using. these are the partners that are involved. So SenseEdge, our partner from Slovakia, I think, they are producing all the sensors. I'm just looking here, and the last one is Psychopolis. I can't really say that very well, but they're a Greek-based organization, and they're making mobile sensors that go on bikes in one of the pilot sites. So sensors, for those who aren't familiar with, just have various attributes. For the most part, we're using universal sensors that do temperature, humidity, wind speed, air pressure, and NO2 and VOC, which is volatile organic compounds. So we set these up across each of the sites and put out as many as we can, or as many as the budget will allow. And then TUC, or Technical University of Crete, support with the architecture. So this is not very exciting to look at, but it's probably one of the most important parts of the project. It's just how the data comes through our software architecture and ends up in our health and well-being dashboard, which is built by IES. So essentially, this is just the data flow. Here's our sensors that I demonstrated before. Comes through the LoRaWAN network into the VARCITIES REST API, which is essentially just a place where it can get organized into databases for local users. Part of the project is obviously dissemination, open use. So this goes to each of the pilot sites, and then all the other partners who work off this pull the data for what they need. And this is our dashboard. So the dashboard is built on the principle of how a dashboard would work in a building, where you would say the temperature's too hot in here, so you bring it down. And that's just the thermostat sensor telling you what the temperature is in the room. And you can then control that. It's the same principle except for the outside. And obviously you can't control the weather, as we described before. So the two key functions of this dashboard are to disseminate data, so we can monitor and evaluate the environmental data. And we can put triggers on it, or I suppose, I don't know what you call them, but alerts, I suppose, to say when you're in thermal distress, or if the air quality is too poor, or temperature's too high or too low. We can put benchmark from ASHRAE or SIPC, these standard numbers that we use to say when an average person is in distress or discomfort, and we can put that into the dashboards on each of these pilot sites. And then the next part is subjective feedback, where people can go up and actually press in how they feel in that moment out on the site. So our dashboards, you'll see next, are actually going to be distributed out onto each pilot site. And this is our method. Essentially, there's going to be put totem poles. They're called totem poles. They're touchscreen interactive units where people can come up and interact with the dashboard. So the dashboard is basically dissemination for the whole project, starting with the landing page to show the entire Horizon VARCITIES project. Then it splits into two sectors. One is the local geography, so the national overview. This is just what's going on the site with all these different KPIs or key point indices. And then the pilot site itself with visionary solutions, which I described, and the local biodiversity. Then our feedback section is for people to actually say how they feel at that moment. And I think this is a real important part for this whole aspect of the project. So this is just an overview of the pages. They look pretty busy, but once they're actually on the slides, you're just pulling left to right. It's very intuitive. And then you can interact with each page in various different ways. Now, I'm only going to pull two of these pages out for the sake of this presentation today. And that's that's the Visionary Solutions page and the feedback page. So start with the Visionary Solutions page. We essentially, what I showed with Dundalk, we have all these different tabs that you can tap into to show what's actually going to happen on the pilot site. So locals can walk up to this totem pole, to the space that they're used to, such as Dundalk, tap the button and then see what's going to go in the next 12 months. And we've already dispatched a load of sensors to the site. This is Castelfranco again. And Castelfranco is the only one who's really set up properly. And this is where we do our KPIs, or our alerts that I was describing. So we can do it through smiley faces and sad faces to keep it kind of simple and playful. And we benchmark it off the standard practice for, say, ASHRAE. To say when you're thermally uncomfortable, when humidity is too high, when particle matter or the CO2 and NOx levels are too high for healthy reasons. So This is a dissemination part to get people engaged, see what's going on, but also demonstrate, whether the site, based on our empirical data coming through, is bad for people who are, or bad for your health for people who are not aware. And then this is the other aspect, the feedback page. So it's really simple, 3 or 4 questions depending on the site, and people can just come up and say how they feel at that moment. So at the same time, we'll have the data running, and we're recording every 5 minutes. This data is coming through empirically from the sensors, and then we'll get people's feedback, basically saying how thermally comfortable they are, how happy or sad they are, how they're physically feeling. Just generic questions that can kind of give subjective feedback from the actual project or people who occupy the space across the pilot sites. So this is currently the data we're getting from the sensors. So because the totem poles haven't been dispatched, we have the sensors out creating a baseline of each pilot site, so we can actually see what's the general flow. And we already even installed the alerts, so it's all ready to go the second they put in the totem poles. But these digital twins, or these dashboards we design, are cloud-based, so we can just send it to the local councils and they can use it for meetings or for dissemination for their own reasons. But this was yesterday, so we have the temperature, humidity in the middle, and solar radiation. So that's relative humidity, and essentially what you see is 6 o'clock in the morning, the temperature starts to increase with the sun, and then as expected, relative humidity drops as it gets hotter as the sun comes out. So essentially, sensors are working, they make sense by the readings, and we can use this stuff for our digital twin simulations later in the project when we have 12 months of baseline data to actually work on. So this is where we're at now. And what we want to do moving forward is answer a few questions. So the sensors dispatched, as I said, it's called a health and well-being platform on the actual project, but easier just to say it's a dashboard. So when we get these totem poles set up and people start interacting, we're going to be able to compare and contrast the different data coming back. And I think this is where some real interesting results could be. So we can review in terms of your standard ASHRAE template, human being that loves 22.1 degrees or whatever it is. We can see the empirical data showing us the actual environmental measures or metrics on the site, and then we can compare that with the actual feedback of people tapping off and saying, "Oh no, it's you could get like 32 degrees Celsius," but for some reason it could be loads of people saying that's brilliant, we love that feels great. People could be saying it's really, really, they feel great, but then the other sensors could be saying it's really, toxic at the moment with various NOx fumes, or it could correlate. So that's where the real interesting parts will come. And what we'll have, last and not least, we'll have, some visionary solutions put in well after the sensors have been put in. And what we hope, you won't get anything too empirical straight off, but we might see some impacts on the microclimate for solar and for temperature when we put some of these visionary solutions in. So that's essentially what the project's about, and that's the digital dashboard that we've created for this project. So that's about it. So I'm happy to take any questions if you've had if you have any. Yep.
I have one because you were showing the slides, the little smiling faces with the data, temperature data, etc. If it happens that you have negative values, let's say for the temperature, so it's not a good value for the person, are you going to suggest the person what to do to make the data positive again, let's say, or you are not going to give this suggestion to the users?
So we can do that. That's definitely something, but we reckon at the scale. So it's going to be this like totem pole here on a site where only when you're interacting you'll actually know what it's saying to you. So people go up, it could be all red faces, but it's only if you actually walk up to the totem pole you'll know. But yeah, that's it's a good idea, and I think because it's a bit malleable at the moment, some of the pilot site experts might suggest that they want some sort of, there's a water station to your left, or go indoors, or there's a building down the road to go to. Yep.
You can make suggested customization. They suggest as well.
Yeah. We can make bespoke ones to the actual site itself. Like there's a shelter around the corner or something for each of the sites. So, and in their local language as well. So yeah, that could be definitely part of it. Yeah.
Set up different smiley face in function of the different demo sites. So
Different types of smiley faces.
of range, principally, because if you go to, for example, to Barcelona, less than 55% of humidity, you will never find the time.
Oh yeah.
It's 80% more or less every day. Then how do you manage this kind of smiley face?
Yeah, no, I think that's the interesting part, because you'll have these benchmarks. I don't have the benchmarks on me. We have a 55. I don't know if that was from ASHRAE, but we have engineering benchmarks that just say this is what indoor comfort is, and we're just putting it to the outside. But that's the interesting part. If someone's like, no, like we're getting red faces all the time and I know it sounds silly saying red faces, but this is the public we want to get our engagement from. So it'll be interesting to see, 12 degrees it could be comfortable for people in the dock. They're like, this is brilliant. Yeah.
Just maybe saying to set it up based on more or less previous historic data of the humidity during the year.
Yeah, we could definitely go to, I don't want to make it complicated, but we can make things bespoke as well. It's just like, it's definitely an interesting point. Yeah.
What solution did you find to power the IoT sensors?
In terms of like power, is it the battery or the?
In terms of battery.
I'm not sure. SenseEdge were the sensor experts, so I do actually have the information. I just don't know what it is. But because it's on the LoRaWAN network, it's just it's what I don't know, 10,000 hours or something, like 10 years of sensor data based on the battery that's in it. So yeah, I can't answer it, but it's a long period. None of the sensors are, how should I say, wired up to the grid. They're all just remote, mobile, and still communicating quite comfortably now. So yeah.
Could you speak again about the value proposition of the different solutions you're offering? Because I'm struggling to see the liquid nature-based solutions. So is it that you're actually monitoring like the outside different indicators like I don't know, like pollution or how people perceive it? And then that is, so to say, a basis for others where they can take it then further and see, I don't know, what kind of solutions can you offer for that?
Well, so the visionary solutions, I'm just trying to think of one would be a good one. Some of them are they're like the learning pods aren't really nature-based, but they'll discuss stuff on it. They're like secondary to nature. But I'm just trying to think to be like there's fins in Dundalk. They're putting up these fins in the sensory garden to help with shading and breaking the wind and stuff. So, the sensors and the visionary solution together is hoping to demonstrate like that the empirical sensors show, the data shows that this would be an uncomfortable place. And then a combination of seeing the actual, like putting in the visionary solution, seeing the influence that has on the local climate or the microclimate, and then seeing an influx of footfall, because we have gate counters at all these sites. They're all kind of enclosed, most of the pilot sites. We're kind of hoping to see if, this improves overall popularity with the spot, people sticking around, staying longer, because we can record that as well. And I guess that's just a template to say, hey, you put this type of visionary solution in and it has this impact, or if it has this impact, it's a good spot for bringing in more people and making them stay longer to enjoy the space. So I guess that's just one part of the overall project. So I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So we're running out of time. If there are more questions, they can write to your email. Right?
Yeah, perfect. Cheers. Thank you very much.
So, yeah. So we can welcome now the second presenter, who is Lucia. And she's presenting about NETWORKNATURE project. She's from Steinbeis Europa Zentrum. And the presentation name is How to Start and Deepen Your Business Around Nature-Based Solutions. So thank you, Lucia.
Thank you. Click. Yeah, here. Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks. All right, good afternoon. So my name is Lucia, and I will speak today about actually the link between small and medium-sized enterprises and how nature-based solutions can be also a great business opportunity for them. So first of all, what are nature-based solutions? There is a different, or like actually a large number of different definitions out there, what we can understand under nature-based solutions. And these are actually two good ones. So it brings together the central elements, which is that they're inspired and supported by nature, that they should be like bring more and more diverse nature and natural features and processes into cities, landscapes, and seascapes, that they should be locally adapted, resource efficient, and also be systemic interventions. So it's about actions to protect, conserve, restore, and sustainably manage then natural or modified terrestrial freshwater, coastal, and marine ecosystems. So a lot of different buzzwords in here, but a central bottom line is also the different kinds of benefits they should actually bring, being that they increase human well-being, that they are positive for ecosystem services, resilience, and biodiversity benefits. So these different layers, so the environmental problems, social and cultural challenges, but also economic challenges that they are tackling are in the focus. So nature-based solutions, they are related to climate and to water topics. So like I said, the biodiversity increase is actually very much in the center of nature-based solutions, so like an intrinsic concept. Also, they should target like public health as one key topic, or also like food security, and be also positive, of course, for like an economic perspective, and provide, for instance, like employment opportunities. So nature-based solutions is a concept that is more and more being spoken about, and actually there's also more and more local governments or national governments looking into nature-based solutions. But the challenge is that local governments, they cannot, they need small and medium-sized enterprises, they need companies to actually implement solutions so they can reach the different targets that the company or that the governments are setting to themselves. But the problem is here now, there is so much research out there, so many different kinds of results that have been produced in different kinds of also EU-funded projects. But especially small and medium-sized companies, they often do not have the time, they do not have the capacities to go through these hundreds and hundreds of pages of course, very interesting reports, but they actually need something that is easily digestible, so they can have something to start and get quite active. So this is why there was a need for, and this didn't exist until recently, so there was a need for a concise business information package to bring together these different points. So it should be relevant for SMEs who are at different points on their journey towards nature-based solutions, so they have different knowledge. It should be practical with examples so they can use it right away, be engaging, and provide also concrete examples of how to start their journey and where to find further information. Also, this business information package can be relevant for higher education institutes, because we do not only have companies who might be interested in offering nature-based solutions today, but also we need students to learn at universities about, well, what are nature-based solutions and how can I develop a business model from this? What kind of opportunities does this bring for me? So this is why also this business information package has been designed in a way that it provides examples that can be integrated into teaching, and it has these concrete and practical examples that can be used to showcase. So we will have this QR code a few times, and I will speak about that because that is something that has been published quite recently, about 2 months ago, and I would like to encourage you to have a look at it. It is a very short document, about 25 pages, and it is structured to fill or to fit to these needs that I just described. So it provides an overview of what are nature-based solutions, clarifies these concepts, also what are nature-based enterprises. It gives examples of nature-based enterprises that are already active in this field, describes their journey, and also it provides an overview of, well, what kind of business opportunities are out there, what kind of chances is there of being really not just providing something that is positive for biodiversity, but actually something that can also, where you can live from. It shows examples of how to set up your business model, and provides further information on where can you find partnerships, what kind of funding is out there, what kind of databases is there to help me identify, well, how could a possible business model in this field look like. So nature-based enterprises, they are independent entities, and the core in the mission is actually to address climate change and biodiversity challenges, and also to be nature positive, so to contribute to the restoration of nature and to a fair and equitable society. And also we refer quite a few times to different research results. So for instance, I'll take out 2 examples. So like 80 or 98% of companies active in the field of nature-based solutions are actually small and medium-sized enterprises. And also in terms of the turnover, like there is about 50% with respect to, well, what kind of, like, what is the source of this turnover? So it's like public and private, well, money, so to say, flowing to these nature-based enterprises in an equal way. One example of a nature-based enterprises is Helix Pflanzen. It's a German company actually, based in Stuttgart, and they are active in the field of urban greening. So they offer like plant ecosystems. So they offer the technology and install these green walls, but also look after the maintenance, which is a very critical point in nature-based solutions, because you always have to consider, well, how will this be maintained over time? And an important source of their funding has always, or has been also European research and innovation projects. And they actually have been operating for several decades. So they started as like a family business. Also, they had like a tree nursery. And then they step by step developed and also got a lot of input from different research projects where they were involved. And they're addressing different environmental challenges. So that there is, for instance, less and less space for green areas in urban environments and cities, that there is increased heat stress, decreased like air quality, bad air quality, and biodiversity loss. Also, they want to bring or create green rooms where there is room for really exchanging, again, on public squares, for instance, and making these, like, again, nice places where you really want to hang out. And of course, I said, so they've existed actually for a while, created jobs also in the region. So it's quite profitable in that sense. And as I said, it's nature-based solutions. They provide quite a few business opportunities. And there is in this report, there is always these links. So what kind of political decisions or policy documents actually already show us today that there is going to be like a huge demand for companies being active in that field? One example is the EU biodiversity strategy, which requires cities with over 20,000 inhabitants to develop urban greening plans. So these cities, to fulfill these needs, which are set by the European Union and then also by national governments, they need companies to offer that. Like I said, there's different reports, like an independent expert report, the vital role of nature-based solutions in a nature-positive economy, which also says then that it can open up new markets and contribute to job creation, also of different fields, which I find quite interesting about nature-based enterprises, that you might have started as being a tree nursery, but then once you diversify your portfolio, you might employ someone who's a biologist, someone who is a landscape architect. You might need like an agricultural economist. So it's actually a job environment for like very different kinds of educational backgrounds. And the basis for that, and for being also, of course, like a company that can be sustainably run, is a solid business model. So the basis for every nature-based enterprise. So what is the idea of a business model? It's about also having a sound understanding of what you're actually doing, what the values that you're creating, what are your customers or the users of that solution you're offering. And also to have it as a powerful communication tool, so then attract funding from other people, from like local governments, from other companies who might want to work with you. So also for attracting talent, of course, you need to have it structured for yourself in order to then like convince others that it's worth to work with you. And that's why in this document, in this business information package, like it's not, we have not created any new knowledge. What we have done is that we actually looked at, because I didn't say that in the beginning, so Network Nature is a coordination and support action. So it's an EU project that really looks at what is out there, what have individual research projects generated, and brings them together. So it's like really distilling what is out there and breaking it down and making it then available. So here, these are now different kinds of business models that are directed at nature-based enterprises. So it's always targeting these different kinds of environmental, social, and economic values. And it helps you to identify what could be an interesting business model for myself in a playful way sometimes. So this one is a bit playful, like a puzzle, where you can like select from individual like value propositions that there is, and then see well, what could suit to the idea you have in mind. But then there is also more classic like business model canvases, which are like expanded by a few fields. So it helps you to reflect and to somewhat bridge the original idea of a business model canvas with the dimension of strength, having also that social and that environmental value. For instance, the cost reduction factor or the governance aspect. So what is the legislative environment also that allows you to act in a certain way? Or how can you reduce costs by what you are offering? Like, what other costs are not going to be there if you are going to operate, for instance? And that's a third one. And so this is the last two slides from my side. So that is what we're also ending then in this document with. So what are the like next steps? What can you, if you then know, okay, how can your business model look like? What you already know, how do you want to become active? This is a very useful, like, look into how can it be continued. There is links to different kinds of databases, which allow you to also look at what kind of challenges do you want to address. It shows you the link to different policy and like legislation databases, where you can also map, or it is mapped, what kind of nature-based enterprises are out there, what are they tackling. So you can also look at what are the maybe cooperation partners in your area that you could work with. There is a link to, like I said, to networking. So where is like also local partners that could that somewhat fit into your not value chain but value map. Like whom do you need? Who offers something that that you would need? And lastly, also funding opportunities that are especially directed to nature-based enterprises. And a last remark. So this document, it's not something you need to read from the beginning to the end, but it's structured in the way that you really can go into what is interesting to you most, and you just read that part. So it's also targeted at really the different kinds of readers and the different kinds of knowledge someone has. If you already know what nature-based solutions is, you skip this part, you jump right in. So it should be really practical in that sense. And that's why I'm giving you the QR code a last time. And also there is many more or much more information actually from this Network Nature project on the website. Also different kinds of like policy briefs, and it will be continued. So this project is ending, but it's continuing in August. So it's really the idea also of further in having strengthening this community of nature-based enterprises and those who would like to become one. So thank you so much. And I'm ready for questions.
So when you're assessing the value of a network-based solution, so you are taking account into the capital value, but also which other values, like health, the impact on health, the impact on, I don't know, other variables.
So what's your question? Is it how this can be integrated, these values of health, for instance?
About how you can measure the impact of a network-based solution.
Yeah. It's a very challenging part.
Yeah.
And it really needs indicators who are partly there and partly under development, I'd say. So that is also when I follow discussions, the crucial part, because you need to somewhat break it down then also to a monetary value. What kind of expenditure does your national government not have for like health, like costs for like treatment of certain sicknesses, and how can this be then related to a certain nature-based solution that has been offered? So there is all the information that is there is somewhat linked, but really having these indicators and really breaking it down, that is a very challenging part. Yeah, unfortunately.
Still under development.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the business models that you have this is a business model there for people to kind of go. I've had this discussion before because with other projects. It's like how do you exploit nature-based solutions?
Yeah,
It's a bad
yeah.
word, but you get then you get people involved and put a value to it, much like you're describing there. And I know for experience of projects that I've worked on say places like in London, they have these green walls, beautiful gardens, part of buildings and campuses that would just die every month or two because like the local environment is just very harsh, and so they're just turning over all this, NBS. for a company to come in and actually start a business by just implementing and managing that, is there a framework you came up with there, or is there something like these are the people you need? And this is like a good business case for setting up a local business that can actually implement all this rather than the council do it or the actual person who owns the building?
So there is tools who somewhat help to answer that question by yourself. So for instance, by saying, okay, what is the governance structure? It somewhat forces you to think about, is there potentially like local funding available from your region, from your city? Or which kind of costs can you reduce? But also, yes, there is also like links to databases where there is examples of existing business models, and then you can see, okay, what kind of challenge are they targeting? For instance, if it's like too hot in the cities, you have this heat island effect, and then you want to target that challenge, for instance, and then you can see, okay, what have others been doing to address that challenge? So yeah, these links exist. So it should be you should not need to start from the very beginning, but build on what is already there.
Okay.
Did you cover the IP ecosystem of natural solutions?
The IP ecosystem.
How there is a lot of IP in nature-based solutions, because it's maybe tricky to protect.
Do you have a concrete example?
Principally, patent or
Yeah, the different like
yeah,
rights that are linked to protecting IP.
nature-based, because it's natural. And it's very tricky to be able to patent something. And particularly to be able to attract investment after from investors.
In the end, a large share of business models are not based around something that is really protected with like a patent or so. It's sufficient if you have a good I don't know, recipe or process or so. So it doesn't necessarily need to be protected. Of course, if it is a very technical solution, I guess it would be the first step of making sure that it is protected in that way. So I don't know whether that was a large focus, but for sure you're right. It is something that would need to be considered. Yeah, but I guess IP questions are always linked to like very technical solutions, and often it's also, if you have a good business model, it's sufficient if you have like, I don't know, you understand your customers, your users, you know what kind of value you're producing. You're maybe just operating in a certain region. So I feel like there's a very large area to be engaged, and it's also okay if there's 2 or 3 companies doing the same thing.
Maybe a limitation of the growing of the company.
Yeah, possible. Yeah, for sure. No, it's a very detailed question. I guess I would have to check myself. Yeah, if that was addressed.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, but thank you to the presentation. Thank you very much, Lucia. So we can move now to the third presentation, and we have Diego and Lorenzo. Okay. So for the project Digi or Digit, no, Digi, Lorenzo from Raw Technology, and the presentation is a human-centered Internet of Things platform for the sustainable digital mine of the future. So thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Lorenzo and I'm presenting Digit. The project coordinator is Maria Garcia Comprubi from Italianova and the technical manager Davide Pass. And this is our Horizon 2020 granted project, European project. And is composed by several partners from all around Europe and outside Europe. And it's a 4-year project. We are actually at the 3rd year, month 38, I guess. So we are at a certain point of the progress. Those are the countries of the partners. So basically, the concept of the project is really simple. You gather the data, you elaborate the data via an industrial IoT platform, and you show and analyze the data on an interactive DSS. We go through that starting from the data phase. We are talking about raw data that comes from the people. So the biometrics, the location, for example, the environmental health and safety data. And we are using smart garment, wearable sensors that can be used from the people. For example, bracelet, jackets, and headphones. Then we are talking also about assets, so machineries and things that you use in the mines. Those are some examples. Also environmental data, so geotechnical data that we gather through drone flights and other sensors, like also their water quality and the legacy sensor that can collect all the environmental part of this data. The other part is the industrial IoT platform, divided in two big areas. First, the architecture. I know it's scary. I won't go too deep in this technical part. So basically, we have the production of the data through the sensors. Then we collect the data through an aggregator. And then using technologies like MQTT, we can send the data on the servers and cloud part of the project. So we store the data, and then send it to the DSS that we'll see later. And this is just a more technical part of the cloud of the project. Regarding the software, we have a couple of known technology that we're using, like the digital twin. So real-time models of the data that we gather for the operation and maintenance, the geotechnical risk and the health and environmental risks. Also the intelligence layer for the analysis of the data, the scheduling of the various activity in the mines, and predictive operations and maintenance agents. The last part is the interactive DSS. That is basically the dashboard, the customizable dashboard that the end user will use to understand this technical data a bit better. It's really user-friendly, customizable regarding the use case or the person that will use it. And in the end, after all of that, we will add also a layer of blockchain, the DLT, and the one that we are using is the IOTA ledger technology that is public. The goals of the project are basically to improve health and safety of the workers, to improve the efficiency, the overall effectiveness and the return of investment of the companies, and to reduce the mining impact and improve also the trust in mining. Those are the use cases, the 5 use cases that we have in this project. I will go through that. The first one is in Italy, Marine Marmi, and it's basically an underground mine of 2 really important stones and really exclusive stones. And this mine being underground need basically something related to the safety of the personnel, the air quality, the waste, and the unplanned downtime. The DIGIT project is helping this mine with the predictive operation, the maintenance agent, the health and environmental line monitoring, the smart garments, so the wearable sensors. Next one is here in Spain, La Parrilla, and it's a tungsten mine and a really old one, so there is a lot of lack of maintenance and overall slope angle that is really steep. So we will implement here the digital twins component. We will monitoring the slope behavior and we'll provide the framework for the decision making. Next one is in Norway. It's an open mine, but as you can see from the picture, it goes really deep. So here we have the problem of the slope, the water discharge, and overall scheduling of the mine. And we will implement some of the technology that we saw in the previous use cases, like the environmental health online monitoring, the digital twins, and the smart scheduling, etc. Kemi is the new entry in the project, and it's in Finland. It's an underground mine too, so basically more or less the same problems of the Marine Army in Italy. So also here we will need digital twins, the air quality information, the environmental health, safety, online monitoring for the quality of the air down there, the rail information, the machinery, etc. Last but not least, the Anokainen use case in Finland. This is the oldest that we have in the project. So basically here is all regarding the digitalization of the mine, and we will develop the environmental health safety online monitoring, and we will help the mine with the compliance that is required by the government for it to operate in more sustainable and digital way. This is just a recap of what I say and the technology that we used. As you can see, the Titania one in Norway is the more complete one, but we are covering a lot of technology that we use in the project through all the use cases. Thanks for your attention. Of course, I invite you to visit our social medias, the website, and if you have any question that I can't respond, you can write to info.digit@h2020.eu. That's it.
I have a question.
Yeah,
So
sure.
the platform is customizable. So in
Yeah.
general, who is the final user? Can be also a worker of the mine, and they need to see what's the parameter of the
This for sure depends on the mine and what they choose to do. Maybe they can have a responsible that will manage all those things, or maybe they can have a different kind of user, like an admin user that will see an overall dashboard with every worker, and then how can I say, like secondary users. There are the workers, and they can see only the part that they are interested with, like a part of a mine, or maybe a part of the machinery is working in the mine, etc., etc.
And when you have sensors that are on the people, is it also for geolocalization of those workers, also underground?
Yeah, of course, like indoor monitoring and helping with that. What else? Okay, that means I was clear.
So if there are no other questions, thank you, Lorenzo.
You're welcome.
Okay. And so we can go with the fourth presentation. So we have Mehmet Eren, and he will present for the PV for plants project. Agri-PV system with climate, water, and light spectrum control for safe, healthier, and improved crops production. So thank you, Mehmet. The floor is yours.
So, yeah, thank you for joining us here at the Sustainable Places Conference 2023. We are very excited to present PV for Plants project funded by Horizon Europe. My name is Mehmet Eren. As a project coordinator from Kalyon PV, I'm honored to share our pioneering project on harnessing photovoltaic technologies for sustainable plant cultivation. So we believe we can change the future of crops growth for the sake of humanity. The agricultural sector accounts for 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions in the European Union, basically. Its decarbonization has been set as the primary goal of European policies such as the Farm to Fork strategy and Common Agricultural Policy. The strong dependence on fossil fuels for energy needs such as heating, cooling, irrigation, electrical appliances such as big refrigerators. Is responsible for high environmental contamination. The farmers' necessity to constantly increase their production brings a double effect. On one side, there is a reluctance to test innovative technologies since they can undermine the expected harvesting. On the other side, the increase in production is usually linked with the increase in the energy consumption, which is usually resulting in efficient power cost solutions and therefore higher use of fossil fuels. In addition to this, the agricultural sector has always seen the renewable energy as the competitor for the use of arable land. To reach the Green New Deal of decarbonization by 2050, novel, sustainable, and environmental friendly solutions for the agricultural sector should be provided. The agrivoltaics implementation is certainly one of the best alternatives to mitigate the use of fossil fuels in agriculture. According to DIN Spec 91.431 definition, agrivoltaics is the combined use of the same land for agricultural production as the primary use, and for the photovoltaic electricity production as the secondary use. agriPV can certainly become a strong influencer of decarbonization in the agricultural sector and energy sector. It has a series of key advantages from different perspectives which can improve the competitiveness of both sectors. Its main advantages are, first, improved land utilization. It avoids conflict of land use. The second one is a renewable local energy generation and direct consumption at the place, of course. And third one is the creation of local social financial opportunities, we can say. Furthermore, there are some substantial benefits for crops performance, like providing shade, creating favorable microclimate conditions underneath the panels, fair temperature mitigation between excessive daytime overheating and sudden temperature reductions at night, reducing evapotranspiration and irrigation water, consequently reducing energy needs, enabling crop growth in arid climate regions. And the last one can be said, protecting against heat waves, rainstorms, extreme solar radiations, high wind speed, ice creation, and hail. However, of course, there are several challenges to overcome for agriPV to be expected as a game changer. These are technology adaptability to different climate conditions and crop types, affordability, end users' acceptance, cooperation from all stakeholders, increased circularity, new business models, and enabling policies and regulations. PV for plants boost the energy agricultural synergy for agriPV technologies to enhance growth conditions and increase land utilization, crop yield, and renewable energy generation. This is achieved by optimizing the light transmission of PV panels through cutting-edge technology, nanoparticles spraying on the PV modules with glass surface. At the core of our project lies a groundbreaking innovation, the glass color converters. So this is achieved, this transformative technology makes use of luminescent glass incorporated into solar panels to capture photons within the blue and green spectrum. So wavelengths, these are the wavelengths, as the current literature suggests, are less efficiently utilized during photosynthesis due to the light absorption characteristic of chlorophyll. These photons are then converted into, within the red spectrum, a color more readily absorbed by the chlorophyll and thus more beneficial to plants. This conversion is not straightforward process. Of course, it involves a measure of quantum efficiency. Yıldız Technical University is on the front line of this development, tirelessly crafting these luminescent glasses using a diverse range of materials. The goal is to achieve a lower cost and simplified production and application processes without compromising on quantum efficiency. Our efforts are yielded promising outcomes at the moment. We are in the beginning of the project. It's been 6 months. We are in the 6th month. And tomorrow we will be having our first grand General Assembly meeting. So the goal is to achieve a lower cost and simplified production and application process without compromising on quantum efficiency, as said. Our efforts have already yielded promising outcomes, and our current focus is directed towards integrating this innovative technology into module glass. On the other side, University of Sheffield plays a critical role in this project. They are committed to nurturing plants under distinct wavelengths in both controlled laboratory conditions and pilot field sites, thereby studying photosynthetic efficiency under these modified circumstances. This collaborative approach enables us to continuously refine our luminescent glasses, fostering conditions that significantly enhance our plants' growth and productivity. For a deeper understanding of how we manufacture these luminescent glass color converters, please refer to the accompanying figure, which outlines our process in greater details, as you can see on the right side. So there are 14 partners from 7 countries in the project, and Kalyon PV acts as the project coordinator. It has been established in 2020 as an integrated factory, including ingot, wafer, cell, and module lines, an R&D center under the same roof with a capacity of 500 megawatts and doubling it twice in 3 years to reach 2,000 megawatts at the moment. With our 4 integrated factories, we start from polysilicon to manufacture monocrystalline PERC type cells with 2 different sizes, which are G1 and M10. Besides our R&D capacities, we diversify our product portfolio to create more value out of it. We have reached significant results in less than 3 years, which is the beginning of our journey in the PV industry. If you go back to P4 plant project, P4 plant system is specifically designed to meet healthy harvesting and to be adaptable to different climatic conditions. And crop varieties that will be demonstrated in 3 highly replicable demo sites in Turkey, Spain, and Denmark. It optimizes system parameters such as panel tilt, irrigation level, amount of fertilizer based on multi-indicator real-time monitoring systems that allows a continuous improvement of the microclimate underneath the PV panels to increase crop health and yield. Recyclability and reutilization of components and materials both for the manufacturing and end of life of the P4 plant system are a central aspect of the project. P4 plant system will be certificated through the Environmental Product Declaration, compliance with ISO 14021, and the Sustainability Excellence label by UNEF. Finally, P4 plants will boost its market penetration and uptake through innovative farmers' engagement strategies to enhance their acceptance and trust on innovative agri-PV systems, new financing schemes and business models to improve investment performance, and through a set of policy recommendations that will be developed together with public authorities to create new mechanisms designed to accelerate the uptake of agri-PV systems in Europe. We are powering sustainable agriculture, healthier crops, healthier planet with P4 plants. Please follow us on LinkedIn by searching the company name P4 Plants. And thank you. Any questions? Please.
2 for now. And so I missed the part. You spoke about the primary use and the secondary use. And I can't remember whether the energy generation or the agriculture was the primary use.
Agriculture is the primary use. Agrivoltaics, it's the definition. We go back. Yeah, this slide. So agrivoltaics is called is the combination of photovoltaics and agriculture. Since we are constructing these photovoltaic systems on an arable land, So the agrivoltaics, the agriculture is the primary use. So first we care about the plants growing in there, because we cannot harm any plants. But at the same time, we install PV panels so that we can generate electricity, and also there are like substantial benefits, potentially substantial benefits, so that we can benefit more out of the same area. So we increase the utilization rate.
And what is the link with these different colored glass that you spoke about? Is it because the light shines through and then the effect is different on the plants growing underneath?
Yeah. So this is chlorophyll benefits from a specific wavelength more. For instance, some plants like red light more than green light. So we can develop a nanoparticle that can convert green light into the red light, so that plants benefit more out of it. That's the aim. Of course, there's an quantum efficiency while we are converting a specific wavelength to another wavelength. But we have, at the moment, we have a good results. Yıldız Teknik University is working on that one. So we have developed several nanoparticles. And then we coat that nanoparticles on the surface of the panel, so that when the photon hits on the surface, then it converts to another wavelength, so that the plants can benefit out of it. Still, these PV panels are not like the regular PV panels, because the cells inside there are some. For instance, generally a panel contains 72 cells. Those cells convert the light, the photon, into electricity. So we separate those cells and place less cells inside one PV panel, so that more light can pass through the PV panel. But still, we want to maybe instead of like 50 cells, we will place more cells, because we have another input. Sounds maybe a little complicated. Please.
I can see that the various crops you have underneath, so whether it's tomatoes or whether it's foliage for animals, is there any limitations on crops, considering this crop turnover? They obviously spot different crops every few years. Is there any ones that like just don't work very well with this? Have you them? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. For instance, the grain, I guess the English name for the grain, they don't like the shade. So some of them has a stress. So there is this. If you look at the chlorophyll graph, there's this graph goes up when you increase the light hitting through the plant. There's a stress, and after a certain amount, it will be decreased because there's a stress. So the plants doesn't benefit more light if you give more light. There's a certain limit. So we give this benefit to the plants with the shade, with a certain amount of shade. The first pilot site will be located in Turkey. We will grow tomatoes and green peas there. So that works for them, we know. But the lack of information about this, how much, we don't know how much shade they need, how much like a transformation we should. I say now the red light, they like it, but there are very limited information in the literature. So at the same time, University of Sheffield, we research in the laboratory, and we will get inputs from there, and Yıldız Teknik University will develop the nanoparticles according to that information. But yes, some plants like shade, but some of them doesn't like. We cannot install agrivoltaics in every kind of plants. You had a second question?
Oh, that was the two already.
Okay, good.
The primary use and then the colors.
Okay, perfect.
Really nice.
Any other question?
If there are no more questions, I think we can close the session.
Okay.
So thank you all the presentators and thank to all the people who come to see the presentation here and also online. We had a few people online, so thank you very much. And yes, if you have any question, I think you can contact the presentators and they will be happy to answer. So thank you very much.
Thank you.